So, hello. Today we'll be building some more UI components. In the last stream, we have covered the model in which we could select the users. So basically this one. It was a nice nifty component that we built. Today we'll be building some more basic components like buttons and button groups and alerts and notifications, things like this. So without further ado, let's get started. So we are going to start with the button, I guess, because this is something that we are using in the model. Here we have the submit button and we have the dismiss model button. So it would be these two. And we can start by creating a new UI component. Which will be a button. Okay. With buttons, we have these, like most of the UIs have two types of buttons. You have the regular button and you have the H tag, which would simulate the button. What we could do here is we could render either one of them based on what the user wants. If we create a probe and the user passes the href probe, then we would render the H tag, and if he doesn't, we will render the button. So maybe even change the order. So we'll render the button if we have an href, and then we will be binding the href to our probe. In the other case, we'll be rendering the button. So let's pass some text here. So create one for just for starts, and we should go to the our main page. And let's create a page where we could test our button. Or even for the start, we could do it here, because this will be a small component. Let's import this, and let's just use it as... Okay, so we have this new component here. If you take a look, it is a type of button. We can pass there a href value. I don't know, let's go to Google. And then if we have this ref value, we'll be redirected to Google and it renders as a href, which is great. Okay, so as you can see in the model, we have multiple types of buttons, right? Because we have like our primary type of button, we have the secondary, and we would also probably have a tertiary action, because prioritizing your flows is really important. That's why you usually have like few types and a hierarchy of buttons. So since we have already styled our buttons, we can just steal it from here and let's put it on the anchor version. Okay, so we have the basic things, and now we also want to steal these. And then it should be styled properly. Oh, typo. Okay. So here's our button. I think we could increase the horizontal padding and, well, the vertical as well. I don't know what is happening, but my MacBook keeps like going crazy whenever I start streaming, so that's weird. Nevertheless, we have our button. I think it shouldn't be as rounded as it is right now. And we could increase the font size, the font weight actually, maybe semi-bold. Okay, this looks not too bad at least. But we would want to have like one type of button, and then you would be able to pass the type. So you could say like primary or secondary or tertiary. The way we can do this is we can accept the prop. So maybe we could use some sort of level. I think this would be a good name for this. So if we were to do something like button level primary, we would get this one. And if we were to use the secondary, we would get this one. So we can create here a computed function that would return us the array of classes that would be appropriate for given level of button. So let's call it getClasses, and this should be object. And now, if we maybe let's create an array. So look up classes, and here not an array but an object in JavaScript. And here we could have the like our levels. So we would have classes for primary, secondary, and tertiary. So I guess it's give me a second, I'm not sure how it's spelled. Tertiary, okay. Yeah, that's what I guess it was just a typo. Okay. So would we have some sort of constant classes on these buttons? Not sure yet. We may have, but you know, as for now, just paste all of these here and apply it conditionally. So we would bind our class to these computed methods, and then we would return lookup classes of this level, and this should do the trick. So if you take a look here, we have the same result because we are passing the level. If we pass in secondary, yeah, it's not working. I mean, it's working, it's just returning empty values here. Let's try with primary once again, because I think we have had some refresh problems, but no, it's working. Great. So now let's go with the secondary styling. Let's just copy it from here. So we would apply the same changes that we made to the first one. So it would be just rounded. It would be 3 for vertical, 5 for horizontal padding. And then for the font, we would get font semi-bold. Okay, I think this border is way too dark. Oh, yeah, let's stick with this. We should probably bump up the background gray and then maybe get back to 400. Yeah, I think it's looking better. Okay, so we have our 2 buttons. So the only one that we are missing is the tertiary button. It would be the least important one. And I cannot spell this word. Tertiary, okay, this makes sense actually. So for this one we wouldn't get any styling because we have to still add this. So let's copy styling from the secondary button. And then we would probably just change the text to our primary text. So it seems that it's Indigo 800. Font semi-bold, there would be no border. It wouldn't have any background. Then on the hover, we would be changing the text color to Indigo 700, and this should do the trick. So we have a nice, very light button, and when you hover on it, it changes the state. We could probably actually add an underline on hover, so it stands up a little bit more. Okay, so we would actually do the same thing for the button. So we would bind also the class. And for the text, we would want to actually, let's not hard code this to the tests. We would want to pass this as a prop. So here we could have something like submit. Here we could have cancel, and here we could have learn more. But this, of course, wouldn't work. So what we can do is we can accept the we can one second. Sorry, just had to check something. We would actually, pass a slot here. That's what the word I was looking for. So now we have the text getting in. So in case, we would want to have some icon here, we'd also make this one. But most of the cases I would just pass this as a span here, so we could grab some icon, maybe some book, Okay, and then we could have some styling here. Sorry, move this here. And then we can create the inline flex here, item center, and then space Y for, oh, it's way too big. Let's go with 2. Okay. In the ideal world, we wouldn't want to use this, so we could use some libraries that would allow us to, some icon libraries, so we wouldn't have to paste the SVG on our own. I think this is something that we'll actually cover in the next episode. Okay, so we have the buttons. Let's give them some spacing. And it's working great. So now, as we have this another building block, we can use this in our model. Or at least we can try. So here, we can use our new component button. The importing works a little bit weird sometimes. Then we could get rid of this. And then all we have to do is pass a level here, secondary, and for our main button, let's go with this, then level primary, on click, submit. So right now we have stumbled on an issue because we would want to apply conditional styles based on whether the button is enabled or it is disabled. So instead of creating those classes on the fly in each place that we need this button, we want to have some sort of disabled prop that we could pass in. So for our use case here, we'd bind this disabled to can submit. We will have to negate this because we'll be applying disabled when the user cannot submit. So now let's copy this and we'll be accepting this new prop. So disabled. So based on this, we would apply some additional classes for the button. We could create another lookup array. So it will be like disabled status or disabled classes. We would have a primary one, we would have a secondary and a tertiary. Okay, and finally, when it's not enabled, when it is enabled, we would have another array. So enabled classes. And let's just copy these keys once again. Okay. And now, the way we would do this is we would have classes, which would be equal to lookup classes based on level. And then to these classes, we would be adding based on disabled value, either the disabled classes or enabled classes. So maybe even something like this to make sure, to add the space. And then all we have to do is return the classes. These three can actually be moved outside of the Vue component, because we will not be doing anything dynamically with them. Okay, so this one is the active enable class for the button. Then we would have this one as enabled classes for the secondary button. I guess there is some more here. And border gray. So basically all the colors have to be moved here, because we will be applying them conditionally. Oh, we have some duplication here. Yeah. Then let's comment this one. And as you can see, it's working, because at the moment it's not applying any classes. If we select the user, it's applying the proper active classes. We would probably have some more of these lookup arrays. We would have one for sizes, because we would probably want to have like block level of a button that would take the entire width of the component. We could have a small buttons, the regular ones. We'd have to create probably some more of these, but at least for now, let's stop on the default ones and disabled ones. And let me take a sip. All right. So now let's add the disabled classes. And if we give it a refresh, we can see that we have the same thing that we had before. The only thing that we don't want to is to have this cursor pointer here. We'll move these to active or enabled classes. So now if we reload, it won't work. I'm not sure if this class even exists. There is not allowed and not blocked. So let's swap this one. And now we can see that we cannot submit, but we can still cancel. If we select one, we get the active state. So that's what we wanted. At the moment, we don't have a need in our system to create disabled for secondary and tertiary buttons. So we will not be doing this unless we find a need for this, because we don't want to implement this for a future use case. So now we can get rid of this one. And we should be good to go, actually. at least, in the basic implementation. So let's create a page for our buttons. So, we will always be able to check how they look, which is cool when you're creating this sort of library for your team. Yeah, so now on the home page, we would get rid of all of the buttons, and we would add a link to buttons. Oh, it should go to its own li, of course. All right, so we have our buttons. We should also probably show the disabled state, so everybody can see that we have one. Space Y5. So this shouldn't be, not this one, sorry, item center. We have to get rid of this. So they are one. One second. It has to be flex call, right? Okay, so let's give it some sort of heading, so we know that these are default styling, and here we'll have the disabled styling. So we can just pass the disabled prop here. It will be parsed as a boolean with value of true, so this should or maybe not. That's interesting. Okay. Let's give it some more breathing room. And you know what? We probably could use the default values here. So let's go to the user model, because we have one here, the example. We can just copy this, and if we go to our button component, we can just paste them here, because I always forget how it should be formatted. So the ref will be null. It doesn't have nullable, so it will be false. Then we would have a level. That would be type of string. This should be also probably string. Then the default value should be primary. And then for the disabled prop, it would be type of boolean, and default should be false. If you it's not type hinting, but it's close to being a type hint. If you create this documentation for the users, it's always nicer to use the API. So now when we have set to Vue that this will always be a boolean, when it's present it will be evaluated as true. But we don't have the styles for these two yet, but we'll create this one when there will be a need for this. So the next one you would want to do probably, and that we have also used here in our user model, is the label and input. So let's create a new component. Maybe start with label, as it will be used in the input. It will be a very simple component. It will be either a span of label or the label, depending on whether the user has passed. What am I doing here? Okay. So I'm kind of chaotic today, guys. Sorry about this. Yeah, this should be one root element. So we'll show a label when we have a for in our props. Is this some sort of reserved keyword? Yeah. That's a bummer. Or maybe it's just my ID. Okay, it can be 4. So maybe we could pass there an ID. If it has an ID, then we will return this as a label for ID, and then we would get a slot here. If it won't be a label, if we don't have the ID, so basically if it's just, you know, some sort of small text, we would be just displaying this. So we'll use the same trick with computed get classes. So here we would just return the styling for this component. Okay, so let's see if this works. So we should be able to replace this whole block with our new label component, and we should pass an ID here, search user. Let's see if this works. It got rendered as a label. If we delete this one, then it will be rendered as a span. So this is exactly what we want. Okay, great. So now for the input, let's create this one here. Let's copy what we have here. You would want to use this as a top level component, because then all the events would be working by default. So for example, we can use the Vue model on this one directly. So even, you know, if we replace this one with our input, it will still work with Vue model. So let's duplicate this one, comment the original one, create a new input, and we would want to have the placeholder. So we would want, you know, to have the same props as the HTML input would have. So let's code this. So we'll have the ID, we'll have the placeholder, we'll have the type. I think these are the most important ones, at least for now. So let's bind the ID with ID. Then placeholder with placeholder. And this should still be working. Jane. It's not working. So maybe we actually need to pass the event handler to this one. So let me Google that one. So I think this should be working. I guess I didn't do this one for a while. Nope. Okay, let's leave this one for now. We'll just on input we will emit, I believe it's change with the event, and this should probably work. If not, then it doesn't. So, you know, we would want to pass the events here. I totally forgot how to do this one. I don't want to, you know, waste your guys' time with finding this. One approach I like is to add the label to the input directly. So we could have like filter your users down, and let's break it into a few lines because it's getting really long, this line. So here what we would do is we could create a div, and then inside the div we could add a label that would have the, yeah, and here we would have the this label. We don't need this. So yeah, label, and we get exactly the same thing. One more thing we have to do is we have to pass the ID here, so it's you know, automatically creating the label instead of span. And it is working. So we have this one created. So if we take a look at our users model, we really don't have that much of custom CSS. We still have some. For example, we could replace this one with a button group or some sort of spacer. But you know, this component itself is reusable. If we use this sort of selecting mechanic in a few places in the system, then we could look into extracting this to a custom component. Okay, so we can add link to our page in our documentation. So we would get an input, and I think we didn't add a type here, so we bind a type. So our input could be, either of type of text or a number. It would still work. Okay, so on our main page, let's add a link to the inputs, and we'll also probably show the label here. Okay, and now update this page so we get a presentation of our new component. So we'll get a label here. Example label. Then we would get an input. And this input would have some sort of placeholder, example placeholder, and ID of example. And we can also pass our label prop. So test label prop. And it's working. So that's what we want. Space Y5, so they're kind of separated. All right. So the next thing would be some sort of alert or maybe a notification. I have written down some. Yeah, so this would be an alert. So let's say that you have a page and you have just launched a new update of your system, and you want to inform your users that, hello, we have a new features in our system, check out the changelog, something like this. So we'll create a page. Well, is it alert or is it notification? I would say it's a notification. Or maybe an alert. I don't know. Like, I have seen people use one or the other for this type of thing. So let's go to our alert, and we have an empty page. We can actually style this a little bit more so the user can get a context on where this would be used. Manage screen. Yeah, we want flex. Manage screen. Then here we would have max full SM, v full, manage screen. BG gray 100. Okay, then here we would have some sort of BG, I don't know, let's just do border bottom, padding by 5. This would be top level nav. And flex 1. 1 second. Okay, so let's give it also a full width. Here we would have a flex call. Okay. So here would go our alert of some sort. So you have your sidebar, you have your top navigation, then you would get like a nice alert here. So what I like to do for my alerts is give them some sort of nice background. So let's go with Indigo. Then we would have some sort of padding, probably on both sides. And some vertical one. Okay. We'd have some dark indigo text to work nicely with the background, so it's not just grays. And then here we would have a flex, item center, justify between. We can probably just move this part to the parent. And then here we would have the left side. So alert, we have prepared some new things for you. And we would have some sort of CTA here. Yeah. Okay, so the CTA would actually be a button, as we have this one in our components. It would be a href to somewhere, and we could give it a style of the triary, and some nice icon. So let's go with right arrow. H4v4. This would be a span. And then we would have an inline flex space y to item center. And this one is a little bit too big. So learn more. Then this one could be highlighted. And then we would get the normal message here. So maybe update 1.0. It's not too bad. Maybe if we could uppercase this one and then give them some additional space. I think that, now it's looking a bit better. We can also add a border to the right here. And instead of going with space, we could give this one a padding right of 2, and then this one padding left of 2. Then we would get this nice divider between these two. And this border could be like some darker indigo. It's not looking that bad. Maybe the uppercase is not a good idea. Yeah, I think this works. Maybe font medium even. Okay. So now we'll have to change this one into a component. So let's go to our components. Maybe just call it an announcement. Yeah, let's go with announcement, because it's not really an alert, I would say. We have to import our button. Okay, and now just use the new component here. It's not importing for some reason, because we call it announcement, right? Okay, let's remove the button since we are not using this anymore. And add the props here. So we'll be needing the CTA. And the user could CTA link. So we could bind this with our button, and actually only show this if we have the CTA link. Then we could create a slot here with name of CTA. Here we would have the default slot, and here we would have the maybe a title. Yeah, and simplify this one because we don't need a class here. Valids. Yeah, we shouldn't have this slash here. Okay. Would actually want to conditionally display this one if we have the title passed. If we don't, we wouldn't even want to display this. So then our announcement could look like this. And it's a matter of preference whether you want to pass slots or whether you want to pass the props. For this particular use case, I think the slots make more sense, because maybe you would want to pass an icon here. Like, it gives you more flexibility. So now if we pass the title, it will be shown here. Announcements. So this is the default one. We also want to have the CTA. Learn more. View named slots. Oh, but by the way, we could use actually the fallback content for our CTA. So here, instead of just having this, we could default this to learn more. which would make sense. And we'll be able to pass our CTA link, which would go to Google. This will be just a string, so we don't have to bind this one. And we should wrap this in a span so our Flexbot can render it properly. And now the spacing is fixed. Oh, it was vSlot and the vSlot CTA. So get it working? It is working. Okay. vSlot title. We'll get test, and then it will show the border, and then for the default one we have a new update for Vue body. Read more. Okay. So seems like this one is also ready. And we have the like I think this is a good use case for this one. If we even want more variations, it's quite easy to customize. For example, you know, this wouldn't look good on a mobile view, but we could just add some additional classes. Where is it? It's here. Okay. They are now broken to 2 lines, so we will add here some additional spacing to the top, so we would have some sort of margin top, let's say 3, and on the MD it would be 0, and this would be MD Flex. Let's wrap it into a div so it's always showing consistently. Well, you know, and since the sidebar is not reactive, it's looking weird. But you know, if we are to make it responsible, it would work. It would look much better. I guess we could like delete this title at all and small devices, so it would be hidden, and then from medium viewport it would be inline. And now let's only fix this padding, because it would be padding left 0, and well, it will also do the trick this way. Okay, so it looks a lot better on the mobile view. Okay, So we could also create another component, and I think this will be the last one for today. It would be a batch component, but first let me create a link to announcement. Announcement, right? And then let's create one for the batch. All right. So we call this alert instead of announcement. So, okay, we got this one. Now create batch, paste it here. And let's start with a blank canvas. So let's go to batch. Okay. So, a batch would be a batch like we have on the Bootstrap. Maybe we could even get inspired. So pretty much text in the background. What do they have? They have few types of them. We could have a peel. Yeah, okay, dobra. So let's think of our batch. We would want to have some sort of. Let's start with the default one. So just some test. Then we would have some padding. And our primary color. Yeah, indigo, we don't have primary. And this would be a span, probably. Okay, so it could also be text white, and then let's give it some spacing. It will be also rounded. Okay, so let's move this to a component. Here we would take a slot with the text, and for the classes we would be using the old string with computed, and then we would have get classes here, and we would take some props into consideration. So we would have a size. So I don't know, I would see 3 sizes at most. So we'd have like a default one, we would have a bigger one and a smaller one. I usually use badges like these very, very small badges like this here. We could have the rounded, a few variants on the rounded. So I would say it will be either circle, so a peel, or default rounding. So this would be like additional parameter. And then also we'd have a level here. Okay, so let's copy all of these, and for the starters, just return them. And let's see if this even works. We should get the same. Well, we didn't replace our component. So the best. Okay, so this works. The first props that should be working is the peel. Let's copy our props declaration. Okay, so we'd have the peel, the size, type string, and then what we had before, size peel, and yeah, the level, of course. Level of type string. All right, so for the level, we would actually have the same lookup table, lookup classes. We'd have primary, secondary, and tertiary. For primary, it would be BG Indigo 800 and maybe text Indigo. For secondary, it will be changed probably, but you know, let's go with something that's, I know, blue. And then for the okay, in the Bootstrap you have these you know, the primary, secondary, success, danger, all of these things. For the custom UIs, usually you would want to limit these, but I would say that we would mainly use the primary and then some sort of secondary, but let's maybe stick with these two, at least for now. We'll be building later an app using these components and then componentizing it even more. So we'll see how this goes. At the moment we are building more utilities rather than the styling itself. So, you know, in case we want to extend the system or we want to change something, it will be very easy once we get all of these things done. So let's create, you know, classes will be lookup classes of this level, and this will also default to primary. Okay. So then based on size, we would be adding the padding. So I mean, we can, you know, create another lookup, size lookup. It will actually make more sense as a class lookup. Okay, so we would have small, default would be default. default, small, and large. Okay, so for the large, would go with like vertical padding of 3 and horizontal of 4. For default, something like this, and for small, we'd go really small, so we'd have like a 1 or even smaller. And then we would be adding size lookup of this level. Yeah, classes. Okay, so then the only thing that is left is rounded, and if it is a peel, so if this peel, then we'll also add to our classes the rounded full, or maybe we could even inline this so it's more concise. If we have a peel, we'll add a rounded full. If not, we will add rounded. And then all we have to do is return classes and add here a space for to make sure it is working. Okay, so now we have to change this one because it was messing up. Default size is default, peel is false. So why is it not applying those classes? Because we get undefined. Yeah, this should be this size instead of this level. And then it is applying some styling. And now it works. Okay, so if you want to, we can pass a peel prop here, then it will be rounded. We can also change the level, so it will be secondary, and it will be turned blue, and we can change the size, so it's large, small, or default. Now that I think about this, we could probably also change the font size. So on small it would be small, and on large it would be large, just to stand out a little bit more. And let's add the font semi-bold, or maybe font medium should do the trick, and it's looking a bit better. Okay, so I think this will be all for today. Today we have created a label, input, buttons, badge, and announcements. So quite a lot of components. They are not perfect, but they are a good start for you. And I hope you guys have found this thing helpful. So thank you very much, and